Okay, this was supposed to be me starting my recording for the fantasy football video for tonight, but we got to talk about this. This is breaking. It's shocking. It's not expected at all in the slightest whatsoever. Raheem Mostert is done for the year. Moved to IR. He came out with a statement literally within the last 10 minutes or so. Raheem Mostert is done. He's out for the year. He is going to be opting to have a little bit more invasive surgery than we anticipated. And he's on the shelf, folks. That is what it is. It's the swan song for the season for Raheem Mostert. It's absolutely crushing. It's absolutely devastating. I don't think anyone was expecting this at all whatsoever. I know I wasn't expecting it. I don't think he is as well. I mean, he posted on Twitter. How long ago was it now? Less than 20 minutes ago. Faithful. After consulting with multiple doctors and weighing my options, I will be having season-ending surgery to repair my knee. This gives me, without a doubt in my mind, the best possibility at coming back 110%. I have always come back stronger and will this time too. I have faith in myself, my doctors, my support system, my team, and God. He makes no mistakes. I'm gutted. This sucks. This is obviously not what I worked so hard for. I wish more than anything I could be out there on the field with my brothers. Thank you for the support in our decision. I'm far from done. Mosterati. So Raheem Mostert has announced it. It's official. Not just IR. Not 8 weeks. None of that. Season. That's it. This is absolutely crushing. As a Mostert fan, you know, as the cutback. I mean, the TCC knows. You've watched us for some time now. You know how we feel about the Mosterati. You know how we feel about what he adds to this team, what he adds to the game. It's unprecedented. You know, the things he does and what he can do is at a level that not a lot of other running backs in the league can do. And, you know, Kyle Shanahan has done an incredible job of being able to take this guy and elevate him right to the next level. So to know that we're not going to have this guy around, to know that there is no chance for him to come back, you know, barring him having some sort of miraculous recovery, it's gonna suck. Absolutely. Ernest agreed. Poor guy. This sucks. Bobby T, I'm glad you found us a couple of days ago and subscribed. Great show. We appreciate you being here. Welcome to the TCC, man. It's always fun having new people come into the channel and be a part of this. From mostly hurt to always hurt. I mean, I guess it's really hard with Raheem Mostert. It's really, really hard. I don't want to say anything negative. Like there's really nothing negative to say. It's an unfortunate situation. He took a shot to the knee in the game. You know, something happens. Cartilage chips. That's not something that is a common injury. You know, it's not a run of the mill standard injury. And so the fact that it happens to him on his second rushing attempt of the game, in which he was moving and looking fine, he was looking great up to that point, and he was even in still a couple plays after that. So I mean, it didn't get up limping. It's just something that as time progressed and wore on throughout the game, right? And after that hit, the second run, he just didn't feel right. And so they took the precautions necessary. He avoided the ACL damage, which is great. But this is just blows. It's a shot to the running back room. It's a shock to a lot of things. And so it's just frustrating. Definitely frustrating indeed. It may have been the knee he was wearing the brace on. I'm not 100% sure on that. I haven't read any reports that state, what knee it was. Everyone obviously is going to jump to conclusions on what knee it was. But the knee brace itself, he talked about this. It's more of just a stability issue. The knee brace wasn't a sign or an indication that this was going to happen. It's a cartilage chip. Cartilage chips are very rare in any sort of sport, especially like this. You just don't see those types of knee injuries happening as often. It does suck for him. I hope he comes back a better player next year for sure. Agreed. The good news is that he's 31 years old. He's still not in the decline aspects yet. This isn't an ACL tear, so he shouldn't lose a lot of explosiveness. That's the hope, is that he doesn't lose a lot of explosiveness, which would mean that, they're going to have to do what they're going to have to do. And look at that. Per Ant, the 49ers are signing running back Kerryon Johnson. So Kerryon Johnson will be coming in now to San Francisco as well. So this is more than just a breaking news for Mostert. This is now the 49ers also sign Kerryon Johnson. Holy cow almighty. Making moves to address the running back room, making moves to try and insulate themselves from injury and do the things they need to do to shore up the running back room, because losing Mostert and that speed, the ability to get to the edge, the whole shot potential, the home run potential that Ant and I and Horst have always talked about with Raheem Mostert now is, it's going to hurt. It's going to be missing. Elijah Mitchell is definitely going to add some of that to it, but it's not the same. It's not the same. No one runs the same way that Raheem Mostert runs. He's going to be on the practice squad per Ant. So there you go. It's definitely that. Drafting 2 running backs was pretty much a good idea right now. It 100% was. It was needed. It was necessary. 1,000% necessary. It ended up insulating yourself, ensuring yourself up there to make sure that something, in case something happened to Mostert or in case something happened to your running back room, you'd be A-okay. But it's pretty unfortunate. It's extremely unfortunate. Coach Timo, how you doing, my good guy? It's unfortunate the way the injuries have happened. Mostert with a knee cartilage chip, and I'm going to try and pull up some information as to how often and how rare those things are. But Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's injury standing up out of a freaking chair is absolutely ridiculous as well. It's extremely unfortunate. It's extremely unlucky. You just don't expect to see that kind of stuff. And definitely, they need to get it done until Jeff Wilson gets back. So we got 5 weeks, right? 5 weeks for Jeff Wilson is what the timeline is looking like. Definitely need to shore up some things to make sure that you have enough depth at least to get you through until Jeff Wilson returns. He's going to have a huge impact once he gets back, especially since a lot of people thought Trey Sermon was going to be the guy, right? That was the idea, was that Trey Sermon was going to be the guy who would come in and be the 1B behind Mostert and take some of the brunt of the work away from him so you don't have to worry about some of the injury stuff. That didn't happen. The opposite of that happened. It was the exact opposite. Instead, you get Raheem Mostert out after his second carry. Elijah Mitchell, supplants Trey Sermon and does a very, very good job in that game. Went in and executed extremely well against the Detroit Lions. But we can't just expect to hand this guy the ball, 6th-round pick the ball, 30 times a game and expect him to get it done all season long. Kyle Shanahan doesn't want to do that. Kyle Shanahan's not going to do that. You have JaMychal Hasty for a reason. That's what he's here for as well, to help insulate. Trey Sermon is now definitely going to get a run, and a much bigger run than, Ant and I both thought. A lot of people said, he could be a guy, could be a bell cow, closer to 200 carries. After week 1, it was looking like that was not going to be the case. And then, Mostert goes down, and it's like, okay, well, 8 weeks of Mostert, so Sermon's going to get definitely some love here going forward. But he may get a lot more love, or, the Kerryon Johnson signing that the Niners just made to put him on the practice squad could lead to less opportunities for Trey Sermon. But the Kerryon Johnson signing is definitely a depth piece and a depth add short term until Jeff Wilson returns. So we're just going to have to see. We're going to have to wait to see what happens. The Ravens running back curse reached even further than I thought. I mean, they had some serious stuff going on there, right? That was just a crazy set of circumstances with their running back room. And agreed, Coach Timo. Losing Mostert is big again. We just can't escape artificial turf injuries with this team. The approach this team should take is to practice on turf in the preseason and the week of they play on it. That might help, but you also may open yourself up for more injuries. There have been a lot of studies done on turf in the last few years, especially last season, and injuries do go up. They definitely go up on turf, especially lower leg injuries. And as the game has evolved and as the speed of the game has picked up, that means harder on your body, harder to slow down, harder to stop. Cutting in space becomes much more difficult and takes a toll. And it's taken a toll. It's taken a toll on a lot of players around the league, because the Niners aren't the only team dealing with these sorts of things. You had Saquon last year dealing with the ACL. McCaffrey missed a good chunk of last year with a variety of different injuries for a variety of different reasons, but there are running backs all over the league that this is happening to. Unfortunately, Mostert is one of the guys who it's happened to as well, and it's put the 49ers in not a great situation last year. And luckily, it probably won't be as big of an impact this year. You did add Elijah Mitchell, and he's shown he has the breakaway speed. But yeah, it's not great. Every player is injury prone. It's football. Yeah, you're going to get hurt. It's not if you get hurt, it's when. That's accurate. That's accurate. Some people it happens very early in their career. Some people it happens later, and sometimes not at all, and you're able to dodge the bullet and get out. But even guys like Joe Montana took their lumps and took their hits and missed a significant amount of time. Due to a lot of different injuries, and Montana missed almost the entire season due to some injuries as well. They worked out Artavius Pierce as well per Ant, so that's good to know. Kerryon my wayward son from David Campbell. Accurate indeed. Let's hope Kerryon Johnson can add a little something to this running back room. Bill Walsh had artificial turf put in at practice as well. Yeah, he learned from the master, Kyle and John. It's definitely something to consider. That's part of the reason why the Boston Celtics didn't have a practice facility. But way back in the day, they practiced on the home floor because the floor was so old. It had a lot of dead spots, and so they wanted to get the team used to it offensively and defensively, so they could force teams into certain areas of the floor where they had to have an advantage. The ball's not going to bounce as high, and you can be a little more aggressive. So yeah, there's something that goes to that to an extent, obviously. So they're definitely something. They're going to look at all their options. That's also a big overhaul in the middle of the year, Coach Timo, just to straight up go to your grass field, yank it all up, and put down the artificial stuff. I don't know if Jed York wants to fork over that kind of money to ensure that happens right now. That may be something to look into in the future. Definitely something in the future. Ernest has a distinct feeling that we can survive this, as opposed to literally writing no on my schedule last year. Retooled to have absurd depth. We definitely did retool to have absurd depth. That's absolutely correct. It is definitely something that we can do. We've definitely addressed it, right? We addressed it in the draft. We addressed it in a lot of different ways, in a variety of different ways as well. So Coach Timo wanted some Kerryon Johnson bio. So 3 years in the league. 2020 was his third season, so this would be year 4. He rushed for 118 times for 641 yards as a rookie in Detroit, and that was kind of that year everyone thought was going to be his breakout year. It was going to lead to success there in Detroit, and maybe they had themselves an established running back. However, 2019 took a step back, and then 2020 was not a great year. They also brought in DeAndre Swift, and so that ate into his touches as well. He rushed for 181 yards on 52 attempts in 2020, 403 yards on 113 attempts in 2019. Only one receiving touchdown in all of those years. Rushing touchdowns, no more than 3. 3 was the max. His best season was that rookie campaign, in which he averaged about 64 yards a game on 5.4 yards per attempt. So this is a guy who was drafted in the second round, so he does have a lot of potential. Hasn't really lived up to that potential, and I believe he was with Philadelphia this preseason, if I'm not incorrect. Yes, he was in Philadelphia. They placed him on IR in August, and then waived him about 8 days later, about a week later. He was waived by the Philadelphia Eagles and became essentially a free agent and became available. And the Niners have made the move to bring him in and see what's going on there. Oh my goodness. It is a bummer, Mark. 100% a bummer. Happy Taco Tuesday to you as well. Corey Davis, 49ers are the world's greatest. I love it. And we could have seen Mostert in a 49ers uniform for the last time, and you are correct. That could be the case. 49ers fans don't have a lot of patience anymore for Raheem Mostert. I've been seeing a lot of different reactions to this all over the Twitter sphere and everywhere else. It's not been a great thing. Also, with him in the last year of his contract, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with Mostert. I don't know. Why would you want an ex running back from the Lions, Matt Maragos? It's true. I would sign Barry Sanders also at this point in time. Frank Gore is probably going to be nowhere near this roster. I would imagine he does not fit in the scheme very well at all. He's not that type of runner. We're not looking for an inside interior runner who's going to get about 3 or 4 yards a carry. We're looking for a whole shot speed guy is what we're trying to fill with Mostert. You're trying to add depth there as well. You think there's going to be a call, Ant? You really think so? I don't know if there is. I think if you were going to call Frank, like Mostert announcing that he's done for the year would have been the time to call Frank. Like, that's what I feel like. It would have been the first call you made. It's just how I feel with it. At least we aren't dealing with 38-3. Tom Grossi's face at the loss was priceless. I can imagine. It was probably good. That's probably good. All right, thank goodness. Ant, you got me freaked out there a little bit, my guy. A little freaked out there. Got a little concerned for a second, but it is what it is. I don't think Kyle Lynch will bring back Raheem, even though it kills me to say that. It's going to be hard, right? I mean, if you have a lot of faith in this guy, which it seems they do, you went out and drafted 2 running backs early in the draft, or, well, not early, but 3rd round, right? And then you moved up for Trey Sermon. So you went early for Sermon. You took Elijah Mitchell where you took him. I'm not necessarily convinced that that's the case. If there is that big of an issue with Raheem Mostert's health, then they'll stay away from it. Like they won't touch it. But if you're able to bring this guy in on the cheap next year and give him a run and not rely on him, but continue to bolster your depth and give him an opportunity, and he's able to pan itself out, as long as you're not putting all your eggs in the Raheem Mostert basket or, signing away the farm and the cap space to bring him back in. I mean, he's done a lot of good things for San Francisco in the run game, special teams, no matter what it is. Even if you bring him in to be a rotational piece and he's just your 3rd or 4th running back next season on the stupid cheap, you know what you get out of Raheem Mostert. I don't know. Call the Bills about Matt Breida. That's also a possibility. And the question is just going to be, what's it going to cost? Now, I don't think Matt Breida is not someone over there. He's rotating in as the 3rd down back there, so he's not going to cost a butt ton of money or capital. The Bills got some questions themselves that they got to sort out as well. So you may be able to work out something where you do maybe some pick swaps in order to get him back in San Francisco. But there's always the fumbling issues and concerns with Matt Breida. And, Shanahan has talked about that in the past as well. And social media is largely a dumpster fire. Accurate. Extremely, extremely accurate. 49ers offense can bring in any back and have success. Also accurate, James. Very, very accurate indeed. Really is bad. Mostert could have had the league leading year. Absolutely. Absolutely. Agreed. Do you think Raheem will be a 49er next season for $4.8 million? And you are correct. Or $4.5 million. You are correct. Not at that rate. He's going to have to take a pay cut. He's going to have to. He's going to have to, go in. The Niners are going to bring him in and essentially say, look, dude, we want you to be here. You're going to need to sacrifice. And it's not because we don't like you, and it's not because you're not a good guy. It's because you haven't been available the last 2 years, right? You just haven't been. You did what you did in 2019, and we rewarded you for that. We gave you the extension. We paid you a little bit more than we probably should have, given that you hadn't proven a whole lot. But at the time, it was worth it because he was going to be RB1. But the last 2 years have not gone that way. So, you got to reciprocate here a little bit. You got to help us out, right? Help me, help you. Help me, help you. Get us a little bit of cap space back. Take less and prove it. And if you do that, we'll extend you. Or, at that point in time, maybe he's able to, take that 1 year less, restructure, push it out another year or something, and they can readdress it in the future, or deal him, or let him go find another team that's willing to pay him a lot of money towards the end of his career. But no, at $4.5 million, and you're right, it's not happening. There's no way. You just can't do it. It doesn't make logistically any sense. He has to take the vet min. Yeah, you might be able to get away with giving him a little bit more than the vet min, or giving him the vet min and building in some incentives, right? But he's going to have to restructure. He's definitely going to have to restructure. Will the 49ers sign Todd Gurley as a replacement for Mostert? No way, Orlando. I just don't think so. The knees aren't there for him. There's another guy who's got some concerns in terms of workload. The speed isn't what it used to be as well. I think you'd rather take your chances with Trey Sermon and see what he can do, because while he hasn't looked great in preseason training camp, he hasn't looked awful. He didn't look horrible. So this doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense to take that risk there. They went out and got a guy in Kerryon Johnson who does a little bit of the shiftiness, a little more of the quick twitch stuff. And like you said, if in Kyle Shanahan's system, we've talked about this before, bad running backs are okay. Okay running backs are good. Good running backs are great, and great running backs are elite. So if Kerryon Johnson is just an okay running back, he's going to be a good running back in San Francisco with the run scheme that they have and the way Kyle Shanahan is able to utilize running backs and get the most out of them. Can we give them Colton McKivitz? That would be funny. They do need help there on the O line. So who knows? Who knows? Does Breida still fumble? He hasn't fumbled. I mean, he hasn't had a lot of carries, so it's really hard to say whether or not that's the case. Mitchell is a 4.3 guy, but it's just not. It's not the same. It's not the same level of speed as Mostert. It's close. Don't get me wrong. It's close. He might be a little bit more of a physical runner than Raheem Mostert right now. Although Raheem Mostert the last few years, when he's had the ball in his hand, we've seen how physical he is. Impassable. Mostert is not out 8 weeks. He is out for the season. He is out for the season. He has just come out and stated that he is done. He's done for the year. He posted it on his Instagram. He is opting for a little bit more of an invasive surgery, and that invasive surgery and essentially complete knee surgery is going to keep him out for the season. So he has announced that he is not out 8 weeks. Not out 8 weeks at all. Mitchell doesn't play as fast as Dream, but Mitchell is a better inside runner inside the tackles. It looks like it so far, Sean. I will agree with you there. It looks like it so far. We liked a lot of what we saw out of Elijah Mitchell in training camp. We thought he looked like the next best runner outside of Raheem Mostert. Definitely looks better than Trey Sermon, and the 49ers coaching staff, running back coach, everyone agreed. And that's why he got the go. He got the run, right? That's why Trey Sermon was inactive. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Yeah, in Paso, it's hard. It's really, really hard. Tyler Irvin. Oh my lord. I'll still take Gore to come in. I don't know. I'm not in that boat. Ant and I are not in that boat with you guys. I can't get on that boat. I can't get on the Frank Gore boat. I love Frank Gore to death, but Frank Gore is not the Frank Gore of old. And Frank Gore also isn't the style of running back typically that Kyle Shanahan looks for in his system. As much as I love Frank, and as much as cool as it would be, right, to bring him in to finish this off, I just don't know. I don't see that as being a possibility. Not at all. I bet Le'Veon Bell wishes he would have waited a couple of weeks. Absolutely. And you're going to tell me that Le'Veon Bell likes being on the Ravens practice squad? When they signed Latavius Murray as well and activated him on just a few days. Signed him on Friday and let him roll, let him go. I think he would much prefer to be in San Francisco. Who knows? The Niners may still be, they can sign him off of a practice squad. So if they really wanted Le'Veon, they could still go make a move for it. But it's not the time right now. Not necessary. Not necessary in this moment. Would the 49ers need another veteran running back, or will they be okay with rookie running backs? They'll be fine with rookies for now. But they did go and sign Kerryon Johnson, so they made a move already to bring him in and bring a guy in. So that's good news. They're adding depth. He's on the practice squad right now, but he can easily be activated or moved up to the active roster on game days if you absolutely need him to. We'll see. James, I'm all good with a one-day sign and retire. Absolutely sign and retire for that as well. But we do have young running backs. That's the good news. The running back room is fairly young. You have Jermichael Hasty, you have Elijah Mitchell, and you have Trey Sermon. Sermon and Mitchell obviously are two rooks. Hasty was an undrafted free agent. So there's a lot of good young depth already. And then you got Jeff Wilson, who isn't an old man by any means, coming back here in about 5 weeks. So, when Wilson gets back, this isn't as big of a deal. It's not going to be as big of an issue. But until that time comes, there's definitely some things that need to get addressed. They made a move already with Kerryon Johnson to the practice squad that could have some impact for this team, and who knows when the move up to the active roster would happen. But I would imagine they are still weighing their options. I think the Kerryon Johnson thing is just an immediate fill. It's not necessarily their long-term option, but it's a good short-term option. Kerryon may not have like a bunch of speed, but he's shown some shiftiness. Matt. I liked a lot of what Kerryon did, especially early on in Detroit. I thought he had the potential to be something there, especially in a system that utilized, not so much run, but as a pass catcher. I liked what he did there. Indeed. I don't think they'll play Sermon, excuse me. Oh my goodness, he doesn't think they're going to play Sermon. I would be stunned if Sermon doesn't play at this point. That also would not be a good sign if the guy you moved up for in the third round isn't active and isn't going and isn't playing and isn't getting a run. It just not good. Wouldn't be a good thing. It would not be a good sign. Not good. Time to cut Mostert. That's a bit much, Gerardo. That's a bit much. They're going to definitely approach him about restructuring. I think restructuring is probably the best way to go about handling Raheem Mostert. If he's not willing to restructure and he wants to get, his $4.5 million from San Francisco going into next year, then probably at that point in time you're looking at a cut situation, or if someone's willing to take a chance and trade, although I would be highly skeptical anyone would want to do that in any way whatsoever. Our need is corner, not running back, shouts Michael Thomas. He shouts it from the heavens. We addressed the cornerback issue already with Dre Kirkpatrick to an extent. The Niners are weighing their options. I know that they were also talking to the Minnesota Vikings about one of their corners as well, and making a deal and trying to make a trade. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. The Niners are definitely looking at their cornerback options, but they're not rushing to it, which is what, Ant and I both talked about, and it was the big thing for me. Don't rush to make a decision about the cornerback room. You have hopefully Emmanuel Moseley coming back this week. You have already Diamond Lenore, who stepped up and played admirably. Dante Johnson was someone who maybe necessarily didn't look too great against Detroit at times, but had a fairly solid training camp. So if you can just add some depth, add some pieces, you added Josh Norman, you added Drake Kirkpatrick. I'm willing to see what these guys do first before I panic about the wide receiver room, and they're going to get the cornerback room, and they're going to get tested this week against Philly's wide receiver room. By all means, they're going to get tested. That wide receiver room is very fast, very fast out there in Philadelphia, and they did a pretty good job protecting Jalen Hurts, but they did take a lot of underneath routes. Ant talked about that. I watched a lot of the game film, so we'll see what happens. Trade for Mecole Hardman, convert him to a running back. It worked in Madden, so it'll work in real life, because that's how football works. Madden never gets it wrong. You're right, Caleb. They never get it wrong. Would Richard Sherman come back and reunite with the 49ers? He could. Kyle has talked about this, and Lynch talked about this. There's an open line of communication between Kyle Shanahan and Richard Sherman. We talked about this a little bit a few episodes ago, a few days ago on Monday, about this move, about this opportunity with Richard Sherman, and about essentially that Richard Sherman's not going to necessarily be ready right now. And so because he's not going to be fully 100% ready health-wise with his body in game shape, he needs time. And Ant brought up and mentioned that week 6 after the bye is the ideal time for the Niners to make a move and target a guy like Richard Sherman. So if Richard Sherman is going to come back to San Francisco, I would say that's probably the time. It gives him about 5 weeks to prep himself, get himself into game shape, and then get him in here and then slowly work him into the rotation and see what happens. But yeah, there's definitely cornerback worries, and there's got to be running back worries, because it's hard. It's really hard with Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert does so many different things dynamically, whether it's as a receiver, which he has continued to improve upon year after year after year in the system, or the outside zones and the whole shot ability and the home run capability of Raheem Mostert. Elijah Mitchell has flashed it, but we got to see if that's a flash in the pan sort of thing, or if he can continue to be that guy. I tend to believe that Elijah Mitchell can start to trend towards that guy. My hope, though, was that we didn't have to rely on Elijah Mitchell in year one, right? If Elijah Mitchell was the backup option behind Raheem Mostert, and we could sprinkle him in and get little glimpses of what Elijah Mitchell's potential could be, then I was going to be all good for that this year. I think that was going to be the best way to go about it. The fact that we're going to probably have to turn to him as the guy here for most of the season, I'm not worried about it. It's just not ideal. It's not the thing you want to see happen. I wanted Mostert to have success. I wanted Elijah Mitchell to have his moments. I wanted Trey Sermon to continue to develop. It is what it is. Luckily, we got a guy like Elijah Mitchell, though, who's got that top end speed, who doesn't necessarily, the home run and whole shot capability doesn't go out the window. We saw it right against the Lions. He does have the ability to take things to the house or break off big runs. So that's the good news. But we still need to address the depth there. Definitely need to address the depth. I work in PA with Josh Arians and a bunch of Philly fans. We need this game and Super Bowl. LOL. We do need this game. This game is very important. I don't know if it's as dire as if we don't win it, the season's over. But a win this week will help quell a lot of concerns with the fan base, and it's going to give this team the boost of confidence it needs going forward into a little bit tougher portion of the schedule. Because the Packers had a really bad game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's indicative of who the Packers are. It is week 1, folks. It is week 1. There are going to be some things that go really, really great for some teams and really, really bad. There have been plenty of years where teams obliterate or look great on film and on week 1, and then the rest of the season plays out and they show their true colors and who they really are. One game doesn't define a team. 1 week doesn't define a team. So each and every week is a new battle. As Ant likes to say, it's a new season, centralized in itself. So you got to come out, got to come ready to go. You got to prepare, and injuries can't derail. Losing one guy can't derail a team. This team isn't built around one guy. One guy can have a huge impact, but everyone's going to have to step up. Everyone's going to have to do it. The season can't be lost because Raheem Mostert's out for the year. It can't be lost because Jason Verrett's out for the year. Can't be doing that. I can see them potentially bringing Sherman back. Agreed, Sean. Norman and Kirkpatrick, yes, those are guys. I'm happier about our depth this year than last. I think our depth is, I agree, Michael. I think our depth is bigger. It's better than it was last year. And that's crazy to think because last year's depth was really good. This is something that we've talked about a lot. It definitely is an uptick from last year. And that's hard. That's hard to even fathom because of how deep we were last year. And the fact that, the injuries on the D-line didn't completely derail this defense. It should have. It should have derailed this defense last year, and it didn't. And so I have faith that even though we've lost some key pieces in Jason Verrett, right, and you're losing Mostert on the offensive end, the key things that this team identity-wise is built around aren't gone. D-line is where this identity is defensively. Them able to apply pressure. Not having Verrett hurts, but at least we're going to still have our pass rush. And they got to clean up the interior run game. If they can do that, it's going to make life easier on the cornerbacks who are going to be able to predict better as to when we're going to be facing pass down situations and when teams are going to be taking shots. It makes teams' offenses more predictable. The D-line is going to help create those situations. And then offensively, yes, Mostert out sucks for the whole shot potential in the outside zone, but Elijah Mitchell has shown he's capable of operating. And the 49ers have Jeff Wilson coming back in a much shorter amount of time, in 5 weeks. And Trey Sermon, we don't know. We don't know what he is yet. Didn't get to see him in week 1. So hopefully he gets to get a run and get a little bit going. Not too worried about the run game. Look, we need not worry. We got this. I agree, Bill. 100% agree. Every team deals with injuries. It's the NFL, so it's part of the deal. It's going in. You know it going in. Next man up. Agreed, David. It always has to be next man up, and I agree with that. Bring in Javion Hawkins. That is a speedy son of a gun. Speedy. He's speedy as all could be. Bring him in, give him a run, give him a look, and see what happens. Elijah Mitchell got this. I like it. I like it indeed. Puka Williams is available. No, Caleb, that is Horst. Horst is the Puka Williams guy, but Puka Williams is available. If I remember correctly, he was cut, so he may be on a practice squad somewhere, but it is what it is. Norman Kirkpatrick, thanks for subscribe. Gerardo Sanchez with the subscribe. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. How did Kirkpatrick do last year with the Cardinals? We talked about this yesterday, I think, a little bit, and Kirkpatrick actually statistically had a pretty solid year. Surprisingly solid, actually. He actually put up some nice numbers, 50 plus tackles, some pass breakups, some picks. He looked pretty good. So he may be underappreciated in terms of what he could do. There were some issues last year with the Cardinals D and the secondary, and they had some problems, and they lost Chandler Jones. That hurt the pass rush a little bit in certain situations. So it's gonna be interested. The fantasy show is actually I'm putting it on hiatus, Tanya. The fantasy show is on hiatus. I was actually going to record it right now to put up on Patreon, and got to pump the brakes a little bit because Mostert out for the year. Niners signing Kerryon Johnson to the practice squad. More pressing things going on right now than me needing to cover fantasy football exactly at this point in time and at this moment. So the fantasy show on Patreon, patrons, I apologize. It's going to probably be about a day late, but had to get this out there. Had to talk about this because we had our morning show go up this morning. Mostert out 8 weeks. This sucks for the running back room, but you're gonna get Wilson back in 5, right? Mostert's back in 8, and we're gonna get halfway through the season, and Elijah Mitchell is gonna get a lot of run. Trey Sermon's gonna get a lot of run. Man, this backfield is gonna be better than ever. And then Mostert comes out and puts it on the gram, puts it on Twitter. Not gonna happen. Not the case at all. It's rough. It's rough. And if you were in the morning video this morning, you saw some of the sentiment. Some of the fan base is down. They're really down. They feel the injuries that we have sustained and the people that are out, it's just going to cost us. And we just don't have enough in the tank, apparently. So it's it sucks. It's unfortunate. I get how some people can get there. It's really easy to focus and dwell on the negatives and look at a guy like Mostert who's been out the last few years and how much the running game suffered last year when he went out. It's very easy to look at, Jason Verrett being out and being like, well, the cornerback room was a position that was already weak, and now you lost your best piece. How can it even survive? There are ways, right? There are definitely ways. I remember when we first brought in Richard Sherman, I was happy about it, but was still skeptical about the level at which he could play at. He's coming off an Achilles. He may just not have it anymore. That was the thought process. The 2018 season with Richard Sherman didn't look too great. He looked good, but he didn't look like the old Richard Sherman. And in 2019, we got to see him. We got to see the old, closer to the older version of Richard Sherman appear and arise from the ashes like a phoenix. And it was great. It was fun to watch, and it was desperately needed in the secondary. And then in 2020, it fell by the wayside. And despite that, right, Jason Verrett emerged and Richard Sherman struggled, and there were questions then. The depth was what it was then, but Emmanuel Moseley rose up. And in this year, this is the situation we now find ourselves in. Right, with Verrett going down, this falls on the feet of Emmanuel Moseley. This falls on the feet of Diamadou Lenoir. This 5th round rookie, who a lot of us, Ant and I specifically, thought this guy was going to be utilized on the interior in the slot. He was a guy that we were big fans of. We wanted the Niners to actually go after this guy and draft him. In our draft breakdowns, he was a guy that we had targeted. We had him ranked as one of the top 10 corners in this draft. We felt he was, in that category, in that mold. And he's showing out right now. It's looking like a home run of a pick. He's going to have to step up though now. This isn't, and there's no more about, Ambry Thomas is waiting. We're waiting on that. And yes, the 49ers are allegedly engaged in a trade hunt for a corner. That is correct. The reports were from, I think it was Lombardi, that they were talking to the Minnesota Vikings about a potential guy. So they're definitely testing the waters. But this is the thing that I had talked about, Ant, was I wanted them to exhaust all the options, right? Don't just knee jerk and go to Sherman or knee jerk and try and trade the farm. Exhaust your options. Is there a guy on the free agent market? If there is, sign him. After that, start looking at trade pieces. What is it going to cost you to bring in someone else? 49ers you can't forget, we don't have a first round pick. We don't have one. So if we're going to trade away some capital here, you're talking about going into next season without a first and without a second. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's a lot to ask. Now, granted, you can trade Jimmy in the offseason and try and recoup some of that capital back. But if you're going to start moving draft picks right now, going into next year to bring in someone on a 1-year deal who's not proven, unless you can guarantee that it's going to win us a Super Bowl, unless it's some sort of big name guarantee, it's not going to happen. And I know that you got 49ers fans clamoring now to, someone this morning had brought up Brandon Ayuk, package Ayuk. His trade value is as high as ever seen it be, and he's in the doghouse. You're not going to move Brandon Ayuk and limit yourself offensively with weapons to bring in a corner for a year, because the idea was Stephon Gilmore, which if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen anything on it, but I believe Stephon Gilmore is on the PUP list, which means it's 8 weeks. It's 8 weeks until that's even a possibility, unless the Pats want to cut him early, which they're just not going to do. It's not going to happen. So that doesn't make any sense to trade Brandon Ayuk. It wouldn't make any sense to deal Jimmy Garoppolo right now. I don't know if anyone saw the week one game. Jimmy Garoppolo looked great. Jimmy Garoppolo did what he was supposed to do, and Trey Lance, got 4 snaps. It is what it is. It is what it is. Jimmy Garoppolo is QB1 right now in San Francisco, and they're going to flip-flop these guys back and forth throughout the season and give Trey some more opportunities as the season progresses and as he gets healthier and healthier. But this is Jimmy's team. This is Jimmy's offense. He's operating it at a high level, and the offensive line is allowing him to do so, which is absolutely great. What would the 49ers have to give up for that cornerback out of the Vikings? I'm not sure. I don't know much about him. I hadn't really looked into it too much. I saw it in passing this morning. And was getting ready to record this and work and everything else, so I was just trying to focus on that and haven't looked too much into it. So definitely going to have to dive in a little bit to what the options are out there and see what would happen. I saw someone say trade D Ford. There's no way in any world that's happening. There's no way. There's no, never. In 1,000 years, never. Just don't do it. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. D Ford is Orlando. No, just no. D Ford is too valuable to what this team is supposed to do. It's just the reality of the situation. D Ford is he is a portion of this identity with the pass rush. So it's not going to happen. The passing 49ers live the deal. Stephon Gilmore. If he's not on the PUP list and you can find a way to make a deal happen without having to, give up the farm, then consider it. But man, I don't know. Who's number 23 on the Niners? He was a beast in the preseason. That is JaMycal Tasty freaking Hasty. JaMycal Tasty Hasty is incredible. He is absolutely incredible. We love Tasty Hasty. So he was definitely a guy that we thought was going to easily make this roster, and then they made the moves that they made. So craziness. I don't care what anybody says, but Stafford is overrated. He didn't do anything with Megatron. He's not going to do a darn thing with these no-name wide receivers, period. Let's not go no-name wide receivers there. Let's not go no-name wide receivers. Cooper Kupp has done an incredible job throughout his career. Robert Woods revitalized himself and who he was after coming from Buffalo, not doing a whole heck of a lot, having a lot of success there in LA. Van Jefferson, I'm very familiar with Van Jefferson. He was a University of Florida wideout. So, he's a very talented young guy. Deshaun Jackson out there, very speedy guy. I know he didn't do a whole lot, but Stafford's got some weapons. And he's going to be dangerous. He's going to be better than he was in Detroit. He's got a run game now. He's got a defense. He has help. That's the good news. He has help. Thoughts on Sermon? Just questions. I don't really have thoughts. I have questions. I just have questions. What is his use going to be now? Where is he at in the pecking order? With Mostert out now, is he going to insert as the 2 guy, or is he going to be in a much more limited capacity, short yardage type of back? Kind of like what Jeff Wilson was originally used at when he came into San Francisco. He's the short yardage guy. Or are they comfortable with Hasty? Because Hasty has operated very well in that category. He's operated very well in the red zone. He's operated very well in short down situations. So it's just going to be interesting to see where Sermon's role goes from that. I'm not sure. But I like Hasty, and it's going to be very hard. Shanahan and the coaching staff, they must feel like Elijah Mitchell and Tasty Hasty are above Sermon. That would be the only reason not to have him active, unless you were just trying to shore up depth. So we'll see. Time will tell. I'm not willing to go too much further in it than that, but we'll see what he is. Trade Tart. Not the only person. No, we're not trading Tart. Still a good play. Sherman's still a good player. Technique gives you an extra second speed that he won't beat himself. Yeah, possibly. He needs time, though. He needs time. Sherman needs time to get ready. My goodness gracious on me. Goodness gracious me. Still got it at 42. Get me. Stafford played with Kupp. He did. He looked very good. Stafford and that offense looked good. And there are definitely going to be some concerns there. Is there any scenario that the Niners can trade Jalen Hurd or cut him or no? Why would you cut him? That's my first question. So my first question to you would be, why would you cut him? Jalen Hurd, with all the potential that Jalen Hurd has, he's not eating up a roster spot. He's on IR. He's, nothing's happening there, and it's not a big salary cap hit as a 3rd round pick. I don't see the point to cut him, especially when he's, it's knee tendonitis that he's dealing with right now, and you can just take your time and get him there. I would like to see what that is, right? I'd like to see what the reasoning it would be to cut him. As for trading him, someone would definitely want to trade for him, but if you're Kyle Shanahan, do you really want this guy to go somewhere else and blow up? Because that's what he has the potential to do. They took him a round after Deebo Samuel. So they view him in the same sort of light as Deebo. This is a guy who can play as a running back. He can play as a wideout. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. He's 6'5". He's fast. He's shifty. He's big. He's physical. I get he's been hurt. I understand that. But him eating up an IR spot, it's not eating up an active roster spot. Until his contract runs out, I just say you hold on to him. There's no reason to try and deal him. See if you can get something out of him, because if you can get something out of him, it's better than nothing. And no one's going to really give anything up at all whatsoever. What do you think about Kinlaw being injured? It is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. They're monitoring Javon Kinlaw. They're trying to make sure that we have him for the whole season. So he's going to be a guy who rotates in. He's dealing with some knee stuff and the flare-ups and the essentially arthritic knee is, I guess, was what they're going with. It's just not fun. Arthritis, anytime you're dealing with anything like that, any day, right? Any given day, it can fluctuate. It can be really bad. It can be a non-starter. As someone who has arthritic ankles, there's some days where it's the worst thing in the world, and then there's some days where it's not a big deal at all. It's like nothing's wrong. Really just depends on the day, and it can change day to day. So you have to monitor it. He's got good care. He's got physical therapists and everyone else that he's working with. He's strengthening other areas and lower halves of his body and just getting himself right. And if he's a scratch coming out of week 3 still, like if he still hasn't played a game through 3 weeks of the season, I'll start to get a little more concerned. Until Javon Kinlaw misses significant time, though, I'm not going to be too worried. He was healthy all of last year, no problems. He had a little procedure in the offseason on the knee, so there's going to be some flare-ups with that. That's just the nature of, having your knee worked on. That's going to happen. He's going to get himself right. He's going to take his time, and the coaching staff's going to take his time, and it is what it is, and I'm all right with that. I'm all good with it. Oh my goodness gracious. Sign Frank Gore, convert him to cornerback that way. Caleb, are you artificially manufacturing big yikes? You don't need to artificially manufacture big. Don't manufacture the big yikes, man. Let them come naturally. Let them come naturally. You also need to put Madden down. Absolutely. I like that, Patrick. Heard his depth. We have Trent Sherfield, also a good pickup. He was 100% a good pickup, and Kyle talked about that as much. Boo, boo, boo. Would Jalen Hurd be another version of OBJ? No, he's not the same type of player. OBJ is specifically he's more of a wideout. They utilize him in some aspects with the run, but Hurd has better vision as a runner than OBJ does. OBJ is a pretty solid route runner. He's decent in his vertical threat. I don't know about anymore. He's had a couple of lower leg injuries. But it remains to be seen where OBJ is at. But if you're talking about in terms of like the injuries, Hurd to OBJ, no, and it's really hard to compare Hurd to anyone right now because Hurd hasn't been on the field. So it's hard to see it translate what it actually is yet. So we just kind of have to wait and see. We just have to try and wait and see. What is this here? Debo had over 200 yards from scrimmage versus Detroit. Don Bird, do you know who Debo Samuel is? Debo he's a savage. He's an absolute savage. Not a gadget player. People have been saying Debo's a gadget player. Not the case. Not the case at all. I'm not worried. Just like dang, injuries are still lingering. They're always going to be lingering. It's in my opinion. And Kinlaw will play this week. In my opinion, that's funny as all can be, my guy. Oh, don't be that person. Don't be that person. Listen. You can make a splash, but don't hide your takes behind your opinion. Put your takes out there, back them with facts, stick by them, and if they work out, great. And if they don't, it's a-okay. You're allowed to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong, folks. It's okay to be wrong. Don't hide behind in your opinion. Put your stuff out there. Do your research. Feel a certain way about it, and use something to back it, and then put it out there. Don't hide behind. In my opinion, don't do that. You're gonna end up jumping off a diving board in a cannonball contest and making a real tiny splash. You don't want tiny splashes. You want big splashes. So make big splashes. Don't hide behind. In my opinion, that is absolutely hilarious. Patrick, I'm not as concerned about lingering injuries. It's football, man. The injuries are gonna happen. They're supposed to happen. That's kind of just where I'm at. That's how I feel about it. I know Ant feels a very similar way. Injuries it's part of the sport. It's just kind of how it works. Unfortunately, guys get hurt. You have to find a way to insulate yourself from those injuries. Have a good training staff to help your body be able to recoup and recover and withstand. A lot of times with injuries too, what a lot of people don't know is even the non-fluke stuff. Some injuries can be prevented just by the way you train. Having your body being able to withstand certain types of pressure, muscles being able to recruit and fire at a higher rate. ACLs a lot of the times is glute and quad. If your glutes, you have strong glute muscles, you have strong quads that can fire at a high rate and withstand firing at a high rate. So longevity and being able to hold eccentric contractions. Sometimes, knee injuries, a normal typical knee injury on a non-contact doesn't necessarily happen. For someone who has those types of things. A lot of non-contact ACLs are based on that. Like they're centered on weakness, glute weakness. You plant in space, you're trying to recruit essentially all your quad muscles to hold and stabilize your knee, and it doesn't go your favor. So that is what it is. I'm not too worried about injuries. They're going to happen. And at the end of the day, you learn to deal with them. You learn to move on. Everyone's going to deal with them. Sometimes you get lucky enough not to deal with them. But it is what it is. Thing with Tart is his injuries, but other than that, he's a really good player. So how do you figure? I'm assuming there's some talk going on about Tart and him needing to go, which is just kind of crazy. So I hope that's not the case. Mitchell looked great. He definitely did. 100% agree. It just sucks. The good news is, I agree with you there. The good news is we have depth, 100%. Luke loves it. Don't hide behind my opinion. So good. You mean you can't just say something is trash even though there's no proof? I mean, look, right, Luke, you can say something's trash and not like quantify it at all, but just expect to get roasted, right? Just expect to get roasted if it ends up backfiring in your face. That's the nature of how it goes. If you're willing to put yourself out there, you gotta try and back it to the best of your ability. And that's what we try and do here. Like, right, we a lot of what we say is how our perception of football or our perception of the team, and we try to remove our perception and focus it on, what Shanahan and Lynch might do based on the decisions that they've made. And sometimes we're right and sometimes we're wrong. And when we're wrong, we own it. And when we're not, we try and, evaluate and look. But, it's not easy. It's not easy. You're going to get things wrong. And we've got a lot of things wrong. But I didn't get Kenny Gainwell wrong, Ant. I was right about Kenny Gainwell. 100% right about Kenny Gainwell. Eagles are proving it right now. He had a touchdown, right? Week 1 overreaction time. Kenny Gainwell, absolute stud. I hit that one out of the park. Thank you so much. It's funny. Ant's still not a big fan of Kenny Gainwell. I still hope the guy has a lot of success in the league. And so far, he's doing a pretty good job. So he's going to be a guy to watch definitely coming into this week. This is my 49th year as a fan. He's seen it all. This is no different. We had some crazy years when Montana quarterbacked us, and even under Young and Garcia, you just have to learn to roll with it. Agreed, Coach Timo. Agreed, 100%. Don't jump on the ambulance wagon yet. Let Kyle and staff do their job. We will survive. We're going to the bowl, the Super Bowl. I like it. It is a long season. Definitely a long season, allegedly. Ravens losing to the Raiders says something. I'm just saying, see the game. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Raiders almost Oaklanded it. The Las Vegas Raiders almost Oaklanded their home opener. It was a little nuts. It was absolutely a little nuts. Ravens definitely got some things to clean up, and they're definitely trying to balance themselves out right now and figure out what to do. It felt like Lamar was pressing a lot last night, but they'll bounce back. They're a good team, and they got a good coach in Harbaugh. That is for sure. I wanted him, mocked him, but he didn't fit 100% with Kyle's scheme. I think he fits more than people realize. I think he has the speed aspect. He did play in a little bit more of a zone scheme at Memphis. I just wonder. I wonder what the reasoning was behind it. They must just not have liked something in his running style, I think, is what it is. He is a little bit of a smaller guy. The smaller guys that they've gone after in the past tend to have a little more meat on them. They're a little thicker. And Gainwell's he's small. He's smaller than I remember. He didn't look as big. He looks very tiny out there, and that could be it. He could just not have the physical running style that Kyle was looking for. He went with a guy like Elijah Mitchell, right, who has the physicality. And runs hard downhill, but also has the speed. I don't know if Kenny Gainwell has the physical nature to his running style. He's definitely more of a burner. If a 49ers fan is going to the Eagles game, be ready to defend yourself nonstop. Fans are crazy. Well, take care of yourself out there. Take care of yourself. Feels like KC is overrated. Patrick, how do you feel? No, I don't feel like Kansas City's overrated. I think their O-line improvement is a little overstated. Their O-line looked like it struggled a little bit in week 1. Now, it could just be week 1 jitters. New system, new scheme, and they could improve as the season goes along. That 100% could be the case. Cleveland is definitely an improved football team, though, also. So it's really hard to tell off week 1. I don't like to be a guy who jumps to conclusions after week 1 because I think week 1 gives you one of two things. It gives you the worst version of a team or it gives you the best version of a team. One of the two things is true. You're either looking at the worst version of what a team could be or the best version of a team. It could fall somewhere in between, but typically what you get is really good performances or really bad performances from teams. And so that gives you a baseline. That doesn't necessarily mean that's who they are. It just means who they are in that moment. And it could fluctuate, one way or the other. So I don't tend to look at a team after week 1 and decide that's who you are for the rest of the year. But you usually do get a good look at their identity. The Chiefs running game doesn't look as potent as I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. It doesn't look as dynamic or as stout as people thought. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has definitely continued a downward trend, whereas Kareem Hunt, when he was first there, was an upward trend. It was boom on the scene, busting on the scene, and then it continued to just trend upward for Kareem Hunt up until that situation happened, right in Cleveland at the hotel room that got him ousted there from Kansas City, and then he ended up landing on his feet there in Cleveland. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not had the same trajectory. It seems to be a little bit of a downward trajectory. And if that run game isn't as potent as people think, that leaves them a little more susceptible and having to rely on that pass game. And if the O-line can't hold up the whole season and into the playoffs, any team with a good pass rush is going to have an opportunity. We saw what the Bucs did to them in the Super Bowl. It's what should have happened in San Francisco. But no, don't get me wrong. That team is loaded. It's loaded with talent. Tyreek Hill is still a freaking massive headache of a problem for any defensive coordinator. And Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. The real question will just be where McCole Hardman develops into, or if it's not McCole Hardman, is it Byron Pringle? Does he end up taking over those wide receiver 2-3 duties for them over there? Never heard of Kerryon Johnson. He's any good? He's all right. His best season was 2018. It was 2018, Kurt the Chameleon. 2018, as a rookie, rushed for about 600 yards on about 118 carries, about 5 yards a carry. So he had a really good year. But since then has really had a downward trajectory, and then really lost his touch share when DeAndre Swift came in to Detroit last year and really kind of took over the role there as the running back. So time will tell. Time will tell. Trent Williams and Kittle are pancake bros. I like it. They're definitely pancake bros. We made a big boo-boo error leaving Trent Williams out of the Hurt Business last week. In the recap show, he 100% should have been in the Hurt Business. He laid a couple of guys out. It was actually really funny watching Trent Williams do his thing. You love to see it. You absolutely love to see it. I like our team, but still worried about secondary now, obviously. I mean, it is totally reasonable and not an overreaction to be worried about the secondary. Reasonable. You should be. Jason Verrett not being out there sucks. Emmanuel Mosley questions with the hamstring. Not good. Like, those things aren't good things going into a game against a better passing team with speedy wide receivers in the Eagles. It's just, everyone has, it's totally good to be worried. If you're trying to smash the panic button yet, just slow down. Slow down just a smidge. No reason to go full panic mode yet. Something is wrong with your team. We're almost promised major injuries weekly. No. Nothing wrong with the team. It's football. It's football. It's a physical, violent sport. Guys get hurt all the time. I mean, I can tell you when I played it, you're hurt every week. And guys talk about this all the time. You hardly ever get through a full NFL season unscathed. Right? It just doesn't happen. You're going to come away with something. You're going to take some shots. You're going to have some bruises. You're going to have some nicks. And in some cases, you're going to get guys who get who come out, more than just banged up and bruised. They're going to be, hurt. They're going to be injured. They're going to be on the shelf for a little bit of time. It's unfortunate. It's truly just unlucky. In all honesty, the types of injuries that some of these guys are getting. Jason Verrett, I guess you could call it a non-contact injury, but there was a little bit of contact with what happened on that play. So a little bit of contact. And Raheem Mostert's just a chipped cartilage. You don't expect that. You really just don't expect that. Jared Maiden is good enough to play corner. He claims he can. Okay, well that's Jared Maiden's claim though. He can claim whatever he wants. The coaching staff will make that determination. So if that's the case, that's good news. If Jared Maiden can play corner, then all right, he's going to get an opportunity in a run in practice, and we're going to get a better idea of where this guy is and what he could potentially add to this team. So that's good news. So we'll see if Jared Maiden feels he can do it. Go talk to the coaching staff. We'll get your run in, boy, and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Wonder if Jared Maiden, there's that one. 49ers fix any problems Kerryon is having. 49ers are running back doctors. Can be productive with us. He won't ever again. It's fair. I mean, I don't stay away from the Evers, Luke. Stay away from the Evers. But Kyle Shanahan has done incredible things with less talented running backs. This was a second-round pick. Had a lot of success in college. Had very early on success with Detroit. So if there's any place you want to go as a running back, it's San Francisco, and it could be the change of scenery he needs. Can't catch a break. As a 49ers fan, I feel like we can't catch a break from Matthew. It feels that way. It definitely feels that way. But keep in mind, all right, the identity of this defense is still the D-line. in the pass rush, and the pressure that we can apply with this 12-man, well, currently 10-man rotation. Once you get Hurst back, 11-man rotation, and once Jordan Willis comes off the suspension list, 12-man rotation. So identity is still built around those guys. Losing Verrett sucks. It 100% does, but it's not going to be the end of days. It's just going to get more difficult, right? The plan of attack changes now without Verrett on the field. D'Amico Ryans is going to have to do a better job of scheming up ways to slow teams down and, making sure we account for receivers in space and not giving up big plays and not letting them extend drives on 3rd and longs. D'Amico Ryans' job just got harder. That's for sure. But the team is still going to be able to do the things it needs to do, and the identity is still intact. We're still going to be able to attack, apply pressure, and dominate up front, which is going to hopefully slow teams' run games down. I know we didn't have a lot of success against Detroit in that nature, but getting Javon Kinlaw back will help. Getting Maurice Hurst back will help as well. Neville Qua, thank you for the subscribe. We really appreciate it, my guy. Thank you so much. And Luke Luna, yes, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit it. If you haven't hit the like button as well, hit it. It really, really helps the channel out. We really appreciate it. I'm going to take a few more questions. I got to get back to work. So, wouldn't Dunbar have been better than signing Kirkpatrick? It comes down to money, right? It comes down to money. So, if Dunbar wasn't looking to get the minimum, it was going to be very, very hard to bring him in. And I'm trying to pull up right now to see what he's doing. Mr. Quentin Dunbar. Give me those stats. Where are those stats? I think statistically, well, if you look at the stats don't show it. Last few years, since 2018 in Washington, he's only played in 24 games. So 24 games, that's not the case for Kirkpatrick. It's 24 plus games in the last 2 years for Kirkpatrick. Also 50, 60 plus tackles in the last few years, and a lot more pass breakups last season than Dunbar had. I will give Dunbar one thing. He did have a lot of pass breakups in 2019. He had 8, as well as in 2020 with 5, but it really comes down to targets. How many times was he targeted? Because that will give a little bit better idea of what was going on. He was targeted basically over 50 times the last 3 years. Gave up 66% completion, as well as 14 yards per completion last year. So that's not a great number there. That's a lot. A quarterback rating of over 100 in two of the last 3 seasons for Quentin Dunbar. So statistically, hasn't been as effective as Kirkpatrick has, but I think it comes down to cash. And it comes down to the workout too. If the workout was really good, which a lot of people are saying it was for Drake Kirkpatrick, then that's the reason why the move was made. A lot of people liking the signing for depth. Still think Hasty, Michael, Sermon are great for the system. Agreed there. Sermon, we'll see how much more of his role is expanded there, and see if that happens. Kerryon Johnson is a perfect back for our system as long as he is recovered from the injuries. He needs to stay healthy. That was one of the things that plagued him the last couple seasons there in Detroit, and why he kind of got ousted, and why they ended up going with full-time DeAndre Swift. Why does NFL, which makes $1 billion, jeopardize their $1 million players? Cheaper field, I'm assuming. I don't know. Not cheaper field, but it's easier to maintain. A lot of places it's easier to maintain. How long do you think the defensive scheme will take to get settled in? I'm thinking by week 6. I think it was fine. I mean, a lot of people, 49ers fans are forgetting this. We're focusing on the Verrett injury, and we're forgetting the fact that for 3 quarters, right, the defense played pretty darn well. I mean, the run game didn't look great in the first half, the interior run game, but D'Amico Ryans adjusted, and they came with a lot of run blitzes in the second half and really slowed down that Detroit. Detroit's offense came to a halt. Not a lot happened until 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Not a lot happened. Verrett's injury changed everything. It changed how the game was being played, how it was schemed, what the plan was. The plan went from being aggressive and putting your foot on your throat to let's pull back a little bit. Let's just keep our guys healthy. Let's give things up, make them really drive down the field and earn it. No big plays. They can take the little chunk plays down the field and punch one in here. But, what changes this game and what makes it feel like we had no control and D'Amico Ryans completely dropped the ball is the fact that, right, Jimmy misses inside on an inside slant to Deebo Samuel that gets the ball back into Detroit's hand for them to go down the field and punch the ball in and put some more points on the board. George Kittle misses an onside kick. Deebo Samuel fumbles on an little inside stop route. He sits down in the zone. Jimmy scrambles out of the pocket, finds him. Deebo gets upfield, gets the first down to end the game, and gets the ball punched out before he can get to the ground. That changed everything. And that put a lot of extra additional pressure on the defense and on D'Amico Ryans that wasn't necessary. If Jimmy makes a better throw on that, or if Deebo can just pull that slant in, game changes. George Kittle is not put in a position for that onside kick. And I talked a little bit about it, but after watching that onside kick back, I'm convinced George Kittle thought Ross Dwelley was going for the ball. Ross Dwelley kind of looks at the ball and hesitates and stutter steps like he's going to go get it. Then he doesn't, goes upfield to block, and I think it caught George offside, just off guard, because his hands weren't up. He didn't look like he was ready to field the kick. I think he thought Dwelley was going to get it. I think it was just a little bit of a miscommunication. And I don't think the Niners, they probably didn't spend a whole lot of time working on onside kicks. I mean, if we're being honest, who would have thought that the Detroit Lions would be in a position to onside kick, go down and score, and have a chance to be in the game? I know I didn't expect it. I don't think any 49ers fans expected it. I would be willing to bet a lot of Detroit fans didn't expect it either. So just an unfortunate situation. And then Deebo fumbles, and that just puts extra additional pressure on D'Amico Ryans and puts extra additional pressure on the defense that just didn't need to happen. A lot of the things that happened can be fixed by the 49ers not making those mistakes, and they got a whole week to clean them up. So we'll see what happens next. Definitely going to see what happens next. You just like Dunbar as well. I mean, he's a bit younger than Dre. I mean, that's fair. That's definitely fair. And, he still could be coming in to get a workout. Who knows? The Niners definitely aren't done exhausting their options. That's for sure. Sermon will hit the field and have extra motivation given the week 1 scratch. He is a must play now for Kyle. Absolutely. Especially if Kerryon Johnson is on the practice squad for any extended number, at least for this week. That's definitely going to be the case. Patrick, thank you for the subscription, my guy. We really, really appreciate that as well. Laugh, LOL at Sermon being a must play, more like a must cut. Now he's a must suit. He's a must suit. FOT, by the way, that's George Brittle is next. Interesting. Very interesting. You're all over it, my guy. Thank you for the comments. We appreciate it. We've had some unfortunate mistakes in that game. We definitely did, and we've had some unfortunate injuries and some guys going down that shouldn't. That you don't want that to happen as well. Starscream Sub-026. What's going on, my guy? Look, I'm gonna cut it here. I gotta get back and get some stuff done as well. But look, it's unfortunate with Raheem Mostert. It really sucks. The Niners made a move and brought Kerryon Johnson onto the practice squad, so we'll see what happens and what other subsequent moves are made. Are they still targeting corners? Time is going to tell. Are there any more running backs that they want to go pull in as well? Who knows? Time, right? Give it some time. Hopefully the All-22 film gets out here soon. We can dive into that and get you that All-22 film breakdown on Patreon this week. So if you're not a member on Patreon and you want All-22 film breakdowns, well, that's the place to go. It's in the chat right now. It's popping up right now, the link to it. Ant, I appreciate that, my guy. I'm glad I was able to come on and get this done for everybody and just talk about the Mostert situation, what it means. Ant, appreciate the updates as well with the Kerryon Johnson signing and just everything else and the other names that are out there. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Time is going to tell. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't, though. We got tons of great content for you. We got a daily video coming up tomorrow that you're not going to want to miss. A new show debuting as well on the channel tomorrow. A lot of different perspectives, a lot of great conversations. It's going to be a little bit limited in terms of what we want to accomplish with the show right now because we're still ironing out some of the details with some of the other people that we're going to be working with. But I'll give you a hint, folks. It's not just about the 49ers. There's a little bit more going on with the show that's debuting tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe. That one's going to be a lot of fun. We got game simulations coming up this week as well. We have our preview show Thursday, the live stream, and it actually may get moved. It may get moved to 11. We're kind of waiting to see how we're going to do this thing, but we got preview shows coming up this week. We got live streams coming up. We got Know Your Opponent this Friday that you're not going to want to miss, as well as our next episode of What's Good with Jay and the Bay on Friday. Don't miss that either. And there's tons of great stuff coming out on Patreon, whether it's a Cutback in Time, whether it's a Big Yikes, which premiered yesterday. Episode 3 or 4, I believe, was on Patreon. So hop on over there. You got extra additional content there as well. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. There's still a lot of things to talk about. Raheem Mostert, man, we wish you the very best. We hope you're able to recover. Hope you and the 49ers are able to work something out so we can keep you here in San Francisco and see what happens. But until next time, 49ers fans, until next time, Cutback crew, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.